Hey y'all, welcome. This is our Shamanic Practitioner Training. I'm Isla.
I'm Takata.
So we're going to go ahead and talk today a little bit about some of the basics for the Shamanic Practitioner Training course to make sure you're on track with that. Several of y'all that are going through the course are going through it at different paces because some of y'all have one-on-one sessions with us, and then you've done certain portions of the training, like you've had a power animal retrieval session or you've had a soul retrieval session, but we haven't done the how-to on that, and that's going to be actually in this course. So also I want to refer you back to the course to look at the required reading list and the recommended reading list, because we've also added some resources to it. It's a live Google Doc that's at the beginning of the course, so make sure you check it frequently because we do add more stuff to that as we gain more resources. And so we have our kitten joining us today. This is Kaguya. So she's joining us for our training. Oh my goodness, yes. And so look at the required readings and start doing some of those on your own time. Make sure you're going through the course in order. Try not to skip around too much. And if you don't complete the meditation, make sure you come back to it, because all the meditations that are in this course are really accumulative, and they're really important to learn how to do this shamanic work. So there's some stuff that you'll need for your practices in the first module. All the basics about the background of indigenous medicines and cultures, and some of the some things that we want to utilize so we're not like culturally inappropriate. And these medicines are available to all of us, no matter what race we're born into or what skin tone we're born into. And so I want to just let you know that if you approach it with the proper amount of respect and humility, the teachings are available for all of us, right? Do you want to speak to that, Elle, a little bit about the appropriation and?
Sure. I mean, when you're getting into, various indigenous tribes, obviously not all of us have all these backgrounds in our DNA. So we want to make sure that we're really honoring and respecting the cultures that they come from. I don't claim to be of any specific, tribe or anything. I value and appreciate all the different indigenous aspects that I'm not going to claim myself as a Native American healer, even though I have some Native blood. It's like really, really tiny. So I'm not going to claim it.
Yeah, another thing is that we're not ever going to claim we're a shaman. That's not right. That's something like people might call you that, and that's for the community to decide if they want to call you that. But when people call themselves a shaman, it's usually because they're a quack, and it's also completely disrespectful to like utilize that. So you want to make sure that you're a shamanic practitioner under your title after you finish this course. But being a shaman is something that people might actually claim to you, and that's fine.
That's an earned title from outside, not from inside. Like I just work with the energies. I just do what I do. If somebody called me a shaman, okay, but I just do my thing. But I'm not gonna actually go out and exactly say I'm a shaman. Hi, nice to meet you. That's
that's a red flag.
It's like I'm a genius. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a big red flag. So you'll see people that do that, and so it makes me really question where their ego is. And I've mistakenly typed that before, and then had to go back and put shamanic practitioner. So make sure that is also, because that's an inappropriation in and of itself. Just wanted to address that with y'all.
I didn't grow up in a tribe. I didn't earn that through, my roots, my ancestral lineage. I didn't serve time, growing up in that. My father wasn't a shaman, my mother wasn't a shaman.
Yeah, so we learn these practices, if you want to speak at all to the practices that you come from, that you've learned, and then I'll talk about that myself, and then we'll open our circle.
yeah, I mean, I guess my practices have been rooted based upon those that have come into my path through divine alignment. I have worked with Peruvian shaman. I have worked
quite extensively
with shamans that learned from Peruvian shamans. I have worked with individuals that have learned from Native American cultures. I haven't worked directly with tribes, Native American tribes. So that I've been passed down information from various aspects and what's resonated with me. Similar to my yoga lineage that's come from, someone that learned from someone that learned from someone. It's been passed down.
It's an eclectic mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's all come into my path
Experientially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how long have you been on this path in this life?
All of it. All of it, but extensively, the last 20 years probably. Yeah, but I've been really diving into myself through experiences and teachings and practices. Yeah, that's when I got serious, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So my experience in the Shamanic Practitioner Training started in, lots and lots of research, but I wasn't really ready to dive into it until my children were a little bit older, and I had already started a yoga studio. I started my online training program for Yoga for Love until that point happened, and I felt like I really came to a mastery level in my yoga that I needed to dive deeper into more indigenous teachings that married with that practice, but also were such a foundation across the board, just regardless of culture or tribe. There's a lot of teachings that are super foundational in every culture, that you see a lot of common denominators. So I was starting to see a lot of that, and I was spending most of my own personal time with all kinds of books on that particular topic of shamanic teaching, shamanic training, plant medicine, plant spirits, definitely deep into the Native American culture as far as like symbolism and what different tools are used for within the practices and stuff like that. But it was never really like a formal training. So then I decided to do a more formal training from a teacher that learned from Nepal. And so I did 5 years of training with that particular group. And it was more of a superficial type training, where it taught you kind of the basics of it, but it didn't really teach you the spirituality of it. There was like this disconnect from like, this is the mythology, this is how you go in and do an extraction healing. But yet there was not that spiritual experience within that shamanic training. And I'm like, but isn't this all about spirit? It was really confusing and also disappointing to me. And I felt a disconnect from my teacher that whole time, because she would just treat it like a workshop. And I was like, this is not what this is, like, yes, we need to understand the fundamentals of how to do these pieces of this shamanic work, but she would smudge us and we would have a little altar set up and stuff like that, but it was really void of the spirit. And so, and also it was very like the way it's superficial, meaning that
surface level.
It was just surface level. Yeah. But I know that there was so much more to it. And I was like, where's the meat? This is all gravy. And I was really a bit frustrated. So I just kept diving deeper and deeper into the teachings until the plants just started teaching me. I don't have many spiritual teachers in this life at all. And if I do, they last for a very short time. And then I just go to the root, which is literally the plants. And straight to source through the angelic, and straight to spirit through the master teachers and my guides. So as soon as my guides are like, oh, finally, you're going to come and ask us, like, here's how you get to your guides. That's what I want to show you. I want to show you how to find your guides, because I am not the teacher. I am the mediator. I'm just simply showing you how to get to them. And that's all we do here, is we show you in these techniques that are very efficient in working with our guides, because our guides are the ones that do all the work through spirit. These are archetypical reflections of our own self, and they're how our ego can filter and interpret spirit, and they come and show up to us in the other worlds. And that's why we do this work, because it's so connected. But if you're missing that connection and you're just working with the power animal, and you forget why you're really doing it, then you're just missing the whole point. And so what we do for our clients is that we act as the intercessory between spirit and this world, and we walk with one foot in both worlds. And so while we're meditating and we're looking for information in the spirit world, we're also holding space for them in the physical realm, so you have to be able to walk in both worlds. And I realized that I had that innate ability built into me when I started holding sacred circles in my studio back in 2011. And as we would hold circle, I realized also we needed a space holder, but we also needed a drummer, and I was both. And so I would go deep into the journey, but yet I was still able to keep one eye open in this realm. I wouldn't get so far in that I would be completely in the journey and, blind in the physical realm, where I'm completely so deep in meditation that, I could calibrate the room. I could read the room and be in it and come in and out like that, and that's a gift that I am very grateful for. It's something that doesn't come naturally to everybody. You have to learn it. It's a learned skill. It can be learned, but it comes more natural to you. You want to speak to that as well? Because that's how she holds space too.
Yeah, I mean, very similarly, I know that because I spent a lot of time playing with psychedelics throughout my teens and 20s, I became very familiar with being in that space. So when I came to yoga, right, I had already kind of been, I had already been traveling out there. Then it was like finding ways to go there through meditation. But then when I came into actually working on the spiritual side of working with plant medicine, and in that more shamanic journeying intention focus, I was able to, I think due to the work that I'd done on myself through my yogic journey, and due to my ability to maneuver through that psychedelic space when I was, so many times when I was younger, it brought that together to where I could also be in both worlds. In fact, my first ayahuasca journey, it was made very apparent to me that in fact was my mission, was to be able to be in both worlds and to really practice that and to be able to hold space. That's when it was shown to me that this was part of what I was supposed to be doing, was to be able to hold space in ceremony, one foot in each world, and play the instruments to create that tether. And that was also in 2011. Everything that I'd done for the decade prior to that led me to that moment, and then from there forward has led me here. And it's that combining of those two sides that really brought me here. But yeah, that also came very natural. It was like a perfect setup,
Yeah.
by the universe to be able to put me into that position to hold both sides of that. So
Right.
I too can go really deep but come right back out and and I can snap out of it real quick and do what needs to be done within the space.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real challenge to be able to have one foot in each world. In fact, I was shown the third night of my first 3-day weekend of ayahuasca. Like that third night, I was actually challenged, and it was like I was supposed to be a sitter at this particular night.
What that means.
So I was supposed to be able to assist people on their journey, like if somebody needed support or help, I was supposed to be one of those people that they could go to. But what actually happened is I was caught in like this center point, which I couldn't fully be in either world. I was actually stuck in between the two. So I couldn't pull myself fully present in the 3D realm, but I couldn't go any deeper into the, the journey. I was like caught in this middle ground, and it was like a training moment of like, you got to keep one foot in each. And it was really challenging because I had a dear friend that was actually sitting beside me, and he was having a rough time on his journey. He was having some low back pain. I'm a massage therapist. I literally couldn't figure out how to help him, and I was just sitting there like, and somebody walked over to me and they're like, "Are you a sitter?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I'm like, I don't even know what to do right now, but it was a lesson, but it was also a strengthening. It let me really see the difference between the two worlds when I got stuck in between them. It's like, okay, all right, keeping one foot over here, one foot over here, not both on the line. It was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge.
Well, that's why we work with the plant teachers, because through my whole shamanic training of those 5 years, nothing was mentioned about plant medicine. And I don't know how that could be not a topic in shamanic training.
Right.
Like it is
Right.
they're the facilitators of this journey work. I mean, until you dive deep and learn from the master teachers themselves, which are the oldest teachers on the planet next to the stone people, how do we know that we're coming from a place of authenticity in this work? Because all of the elders in all of the tribes sit with medicine, sit and go into the dream time. They sit and go in
peyote, wachuma, ayahuasca. They're working with very, they all essentially kind of take you to the same place.
Yeah, I mean, they all take you to the Godhead,
kind of different ways of getting there, but it's all at the same place.
It's all one, once we get there and we learn how to utilize the different medicines and the differences, how they react in the body and those minutia things that are physical, the journey work is the same. And so, that was not ever discussed in my training. And I had sat with plant medicine and been holding ceremony and circle since 2011. So I was very aware of the teachings of the plants, but I knew that, that was part of my journey, is to work with the plants. And anytime I wanted to bring something up deeper about some of the journey work, because the teacher that I would work with, she knew that I was doing this journey work, she would shut down the conversation. And I'm like, that's really weird, because that was super relevant, like this is part of the journey that happened. So there's no segregation is what I'm trying to say in these teachings. They're all very overlapping. It doesn't matter. Right now in this planet, we are all so globally educated that the indigenous lineage is not the part that we're attached to any longer. Like there used to be this ego attached to, I'm 75% Cherokee and I'm 90% Lakota. And there was these huge fights about who has more DNA. Same thing all the way back to the ancient Egyptians. I have more blood of the sons of man, and then that's all feeding ego. nobody cares,
Rainbow
so
tribe.
we're all rainbow tribe, exactly, but back before we were all rainbow, we were born into this DNA that's mixed together. It was very separated between the hierarchy of the ones that were from the pharaohs and the ones that were from the common people. They were actually even looked different. They had different head shapes. Some of the people that were the commoners were so primal and very uneducated. It took the blood of the ascended ones to 10,000 years, to feed into where now everybody has some DNA from the ascended masters, from the ancient teachers. And so we are all able to access this through our DNA. And so I don't want to attach to any specific lineage here, and I'm not going to, because I think that is limiting and it's also not accurate at this point. We are so globally intermixed. So one of the teachings that I really like from your required reading is the teachings around the sacred wheel. And these books just come to me. I don't even know how I found it, but Lynn V. Andrews, she is one of the wonderful oldest writers on this topic in the Western world. And she's also author of Medicine Woman, which I haven't read that one, but I'd like to. But I just look at this cover. That right there in and of itself is like.
It's in there, Medicine Woman.
Huh? Oh, you have the other one? It's so funny because I have certain copies of certain authors, and then she has like the rest of the series, or vice versa. Like when we combined our libraries, she's like, "Oh, there's that other book," and I'm like, "Oh, there's the one to that set. Was that yours or was that mine?" Because our libraries have completely meshed together. We have some duplicates, but other than that, like we have complete sets of things that we didn't have complete sets of before. So. I know, it's just like this total spiritual setup and total setup from the universe. But this one's really good. I've done some of the meditations for you guys on audio with these from this book. But how we always start with the Algonquian, and it's the Song of the Stars. And so I'm going to stop this video and then I'm going to restart so the videos stay a little shorter for y'all as you're going through the training. So we're going to just leave it with that, like go through the required reading. Make sure you're going through the course in order. Make sure you're doing the meditations. You have a dream journal. You have an actual journal for your work. And you're doing all of the exercises, because there's exercises that are practices that get you outside in nature. And don't skip over those. You're going to be doing yourself a disservice. And plus, as you do those practices outside, it is really, really important work, because we're getting out there with Mama, Gaia, Pachamama. Anything else before we wrap up this portion? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and click pause, and then we're going to jump right back in. So if you need to stop, you can stop here and then join the next one later. But those of you that are on live, thank you. Just please hold.